Kylie, and this is my
And I'm
husband Mike. We own the Hideaway, and they are, well, basically it's 80 acres of forest. And within that, we own 2 guest cabins that we began renting. They're off-grid, and we are on the Miramichi River, so it's a beautiful surrounding. It's been a bit of a challenge getting them up and running because we are off-grid. Our main cabin is also off-grid, and
we live on site.
And we do live on site.
Yeah. Well, we kind of, years ago, we took off on a sailboat for 3.5 years. We lived on a 30-foot wooden boat. And we lived more or less, obviously, off-grid in that respect, but very basic power consumption needs, like 2 panels and, 2 6-volt Trojan batteries that, basically that was all we needed. So going back to sort of living back on land and getting back into business and stuff, we just needed a new adventure. So hence the coming out here and, buying this property, which I will say we bought sight unseen, kind of rolled the dice and, and here we are. But we figured, with the advancements in solar and power generating systems and so on and so forth, that it was a lot easier to set all this stuff up, and we just kind of basically threw ourselves into the fire, so to speak, and had to figure it out in a hurry and set everything up, and it's working really well. We've got at this point we've been here a year and a half almost, and we basically have 4 buildings that are all independently run with absolutely no grid power, which has been pretty cool.
I think for us, a simple life has always been a priority. Maybe not a priority, but because we went sailing, it introduced us to a simple life, very simple life. And it was the best time of our lives. We sailed down to Venezuela and back on our 30-foot wooden boat. And when I say sailing back, we left from Ontario and we sailed the Great Lakes down to Venezuela and back. And just throughout that whole time, living so simply, off sun, wind,
fish out of the sea, that sort of thing.
We were eating fish out of the sea, and it was a really cool time. And hence, fast forward to now, we kind of wanted that simple life again. We wanted to have property. We wanted to have fresh water. We wanted to be self-sufficient. We didn't want to have to rely on other sources. We wanted to rely on ourselves.
The ability to harvest animals, like hunting season and whatnot, it's right around the corner. And
yeah.
I will say though, it is a simple or more simplified lifestyle to a certain degree. However, I'm a little jaw dropped at times because we own a whole pile of stuff. We got side-by-sides and bikes and tractors and some of the stuff that we kind of look at as an absolute necessity to live here and to offer. You need access to get into these buildings for sure in the winter months. So, blowing the laneway out and stuff like that requires certain equipment and whatnot. So anyways, I guess it is simplified to a certain degree because we don't go to the grocery store because it's, 10 minutes down the road. So we seem to plan, and sometimes we won't leave the property for a week at a time, which is great. But it has been a challenge, and but it's working out.
Also for us, yes, we had solar on our sailboat, but the systems have improved over the years, but they've also gotten a little bit more complicated. So, when we first were in Ontario and looking at moving out here, we knew that we would have to be off-grid, and our first source was the cabin depot.
Yeah.
And Mike, he called around and started talking to Kiefer and started going through, all of the systems and what we would need. And Kiefer really walked us through and became like a lifeline to us.
Well, the funny part, if I can interrupt for a second, is I probably had 4 or 5 lengthy conversations over the phone with him before we moved out here. And then I went to place an order and I was like, well, can you just ship it to our address or whatever? And he was like, well, we're in New Brunswick. I was like, I actually never even looked at the address in terms of where you were located. I just thought for sure it was a mail order thing. And so it was kind of funny. It's like literally an hour and 20 minutes away from where we lived. So that was actually perfect, but kind of funny at the same time.
It was a great store. I mean, everyone's always been so helpful and so friendly and knowledgeable every time we go in.
And it feels a bit like, it feels the way it should. It feels like a cabin when you walk in there, kind of thing. It's like all the goodies that, that we kind of, revolve our lives around right now, or all the things that we need. It's kind of like all right there. So there's eye candy everywhere for us when we go in that store.
It was kind of just unbelievable that there was a store dedicated to what we were actually going to experience. So
I was thinking for make sure the cameras are running.
Yeah, the winter was
different,
interesting to say the least. And I mean, we knew there was a bit of I won't sugarcoat it, a bit of pang of anxiety a little bit when, the first couple snowfalls came and we realized, I got to back a tractor up that hill and keep the laneway tidy, which was fine. But then just with the power generation, we realized probably this time of year, last year, we were into it, and we realized that, the sun's angle just isn't working with what we have installed on our roof. So we have the rail system, and we have 8 panels on the roof, but I didn't necessarily want to cheat the angle of the panels when we installed them. Kylie and I installed them together, because I've thought about snow driving in the back and so on. So I wanted to tuck them up tight to the ridge cap and make sure that they were not vulnerable to snow. Anyways, great in the summer months when it's like right overhead and just blasting down on it. Like they're charging, we'll be at 100% by noon sometimes, and it'll shut itself off. However, not the case in the winter. So I would say around September, October, November last year, we realized it was really like the performance wasn't great because the sun's so low. So we did build another set, kind of quickly built a post and beam structure by the river. So we were out of the line of sight of these trees and in clear view of the new sun, or not new sun, but the winter months, let's call it. And I also made them so they articulated a little bit so we could chase it, and we could also tip them back. And that was huge. That was an absolute game changer. We would have been running the generator to top up way more often if we hadn't have done that. So we do run the generator a fair bit, sometimes in the winter. And this summer wasn't exactly great for sun. I mean, it was really wet, and a lot of days like right now where you get periods of sun, but then periods of clouds, which of course don't really help. But it's been fine. But in the winter months, we have to fire up our Honda generator from time to time and just, top up, but it's been okay. We did set up the Jenny with, actually it's not finished yet, but we have a remote start and stuff. So, 11 o'clock at night or something, you realize, oh darn, we should have charged earlier. At least you only actually have to go outside. We can actually start it from inside now, which is kind of nice. Mm-hmm.
So we went back and forth about the heating that we were going to use in the birch and the spruce. Those are the cabin names that we selected. And ultimately, we thought that what's a cabin without a wood stove, really? We looked at doing maybe like just a propane heater, but then you don't have the ambiance. So what we did was we decided to go with small Drolet wood stoves. And we got the same model, and they're one in each cabin. And then to offset the wood stoves, we also are using Martin heaters, which will just kind of keep that chill out, and keep everything from freezing. And then when guests arrive, they can start the stoves. What we do is we prep the stoves, so all you have to do is light it. It's already built, and then as you need, you just add logs, so it's very, very easy to manage. And between the Martin heaters and the Drolet, we're hoping that there'll be no issues with warmth, and hopefully everything does not freeze. And no,
we'll be fine. And as you guys saw checking out the cabins earlier when you got here, I mean, it doesn't take much to heat that. They aren't large spaces, and I think they're particular models were kind of spec'd for 1,000 square feet.
roughly, yeah.
roughly. So yeah, I mean, you get a fire going and let it, kind of die out a wee bit, and I can't imagine you're not going to be getting up to stoke it, I don't think, in the nighttime.
No, it's very efficient.
You'll be sweating in there, like it'd be too hot. You can make it too hot pretty easily if you're not careful. But
It's a good problem to have.
it's a good problem to have, yeah.
They're cabins / saunas.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, we decided to go with a unique stove and oven combination for the birch. It's run off propane, and then in the spruce we decided to go with just a cooktop from Gasland that we got from Cabin Depot as well. We didn't have the space to have a full oven and stove in the spruce, so we just decided to do the 2-burner. I mean, really, who uses an oven when they're staying for a few nights? And then we also have the unique mini fridges, which are also run off propane. And one is in each cabin. So
Might want to add the fact that those unique fridges are actually quite unique in the sense that we do run them off propane right now, but they will also run 120 VAC, and I believe 12 volt and 48 volt as well. So you can kind of do whatever you want with those.
Yeah.
Those are really nice fridges. They've been working great.
yeah, they're also very efficient. They don't use a ton of propane.
Yeah.
They cool very quickly, and then you can kind of turn them right down, and they stay cool. The freezer stays really cold. They even have little freezers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we
What else do we have in
basically,
there?
just on the systems itself, like we basically just, when the guests are gone and it's, time to clean the cabins, we just go around to the back because we've got it all set up with each has its own independent propane tank, and we just shut the tank off, let everything run out, so we're not using any power or gas like when no one's here. So it's kind of a cost effective and a good way to do it, I guess. We got the Delta 2s or Delta Pros?
Delta 2s.
Delta 2s.
Yeah.
And we have 3 of them, 3 of the identical units. And the reason for that is the way I've got it wired up is they will run each cabin, but we have a third one that usually sits in my shop or in our shop. But if someone's here for 2 or 3 days and Kylie can see on her phone that one's getting low, we can just switch that one out, and then all of a sudden they're right back in business again. So, but we're typically seeing like 2 days, like a full night stay with 2 days, like they're not even halfway depleted, would you say?
Yeah,
Or
no, they're about 2 days is what they use. I mean, on average, they're really only running our lights and whatever anybody plugs in, whether that's, we stress like no hair dryers, no straighteners, no toasters, no crock pots, because it just can't handle it. So laptops, charging your phone, and you're coming to an off-grid cabin. So you're not supposed to be bringing those things.
yeah.
Each cabin has everything that you need, for a comfortable stay. So it's really not necessary to have anything that draws a lot of power. So I think that they are 1,800 watts.
Sure. So we built a cedar outdoor shower, privacy from sort of the deck seating and stuff, and people using the common space. So you're kind of looking up into the forest, which is kind of neat. And of course the door closes and so on. But in there we have a on-demand Camplux system, which basically you just pick up the nozzle and hit the button, and you got hot water pretty much right away. So, and it's been working really nice. It's a bit of a unique thing. Like, we don't necessarily have indoor showers simply because the cabins aren't large enough to accommodate that. But what we have, we just have not set it up yet or built it, is we do have is it 7 foot wide tub, 7 foot diameter?
Yeah.
Hot tub, which we have a few spots in mind that would be a really interesting setting for someone to roll in, and wood-fired hot tub, and then say you come in on a snowmobile or whatever the case may be, and you can have a full-blown hot tub right at the bottom of the stairs. So that's in the plans for the not so distant future.
Oh my gosh.
We got a list. No,
We have a few things happening. Obviously, the wood-fired hot tub is key for the winter. We definitely want to do trails. We have 80 acres and it's a beautiful forest. We have recently purchased a wood mill. So we're going to be clearing out a lot of deadfall. We have a chipper. So there's going to be a lot of projects on the land. We want to make hiking trails, snowshoe trails, possibly cross-country ski trails. We're not sure yet.
Snowshoeing is incredible here.
It's a winter wonderland here. Yeah. The one cool thing we want to do is there's an area behind the cabins where we are right now, and that's going to be our parking area. And we want to do a big switchback trail. So people can hike down to the cabins, and then to get your luggage down, we're going to build a zip line. So you can put your luggage in the cart, send it down, and then by the time you get down here to your cabins, your luggage is waiting for you. So we got some cool things that we really want to do. That was Mike's idea, and I love it. I think it's a great idea. I would totally recommend the Cabin Depot. Just how knowledgeable and helpful everyone really has been. We came into this fairly green, so it was really helpful for us. Mike knew more about the systems than I did, but when I would go in on my own, I came out of there knowing way more than when I went in. So I would highly recommend them, and their pricing is pretty much the best pricing we've come across on most items. So,
and the stock and stuff too. I mean, when we decided, when I was saying before about sort of last minute in the fall last year, when we decided to put another solar array down there, another 1200 watts, I thought, oh geez, everybody's worried about supply chain and supply and demand issues, and of course I called up and you guys just had a decent stock of them, so I was like, thankfully I could just drive into Fredericton and pick them up and get that thing going within a couple of days was huge, and not have to wait for it. So the stock, it feels like you guys have great stock. Like then you walk through the Cabin Depot and go down into the area where all your appliances and stuff are, and I mean the cool colors and all that stuff. It's pretty neat to walk in and see stuff, because I think Unique is probably one of the few companies too that does those kind of wild colors too, right? Like you don't see appliances done in those like kind of aquas and different colors and reds and stuff all the time, and that's kind of neat too.
I would say the best time to rent the cabins at the Hideaway is likely fall. However, we just started renting them September 1st, so we have not actually been through a whole year. I also think summer would be really a beautiful time to rent here, because then you can use the river to cool down. It's so beautiful here with all the greenery, but fall has a special touch with all the leaves, and I don't know, you can run those fires and be cozy inside. I think a nice time.
I think a lot of it also has to do with what your interests are. Are you into snowmobiling or snowshoeing or skiing or whatever? Or, I mean, some people, we offer, fire pit down there and, go to the river and stuff. And more often than not, people barely leave the deck. They're just happy to hang out here and have a few drinks and just kind of kick back, which is nice. I
do have to say, I was very impressed with last winter. I was not a big winter person because that was my busy season when I was working in Ontario, so I never really enjoyed the winter because I left when it was dark and I came home when it was dark. But to experience the daytime on this property and
in this setting too,
you'd head out for a snowshoe and you'd be gone for hours because it just was so beautiful. And so I think that's also a really special time of year. And again, you can come back and you've got the fire going and you can have a nice bowl of chili.
And it's also like on a snowmobile trip, it's a pretty, let's call it like a fairly wild place to come into as well, right? Like, you're not rolling out here and getting settled and then walking somewhere for dinner or anything like that. So it's kind of one of those, come in and be prepared and enjoy it for what it is, and then head out again the next day, and
But
it's
I
all
have
good.
to say too, the spring's nice because everything's coming to life. You get to see all the trees starting to bud.
Wildlife.
Fishing season opens on the river. You can access the hideaway from the river. So if someone, wants to take their boat, because the water's high at that time of year, so boats are the best way to get around.
And there's a safe spot to pull a boat up and drop
Yeah,
anchor, and it's
you
no
can go
big deal.
fishing for the day and then, come in and hang out here. And
Yeah.